Everybody says we're in the business of duplication. We all know that. We're not in the skincare business or the health and nutrition business or the travel business or the cell phone business. The real business that we're in is creating duplication in our organizations. In this skill, the 3D pattern, I'm going to show you something that I was taught years ago, and I can assure you that nothing, and I mean nothing, had as profound an effect on getting the desired result as the 3D pattern. Now you see our little symbol over here of a kid tying his shoes. Here's the point. When a kid's about 4 or 5 years old and you want to teach him how to tie his shoes, what most people do is have him hold one of the strings straight up and you try to tie the bow around it. And of course you do that, and in a few days he'll reach over and he'll try to do it himself. Now the first few attempts aren't that good. You have to kind of retighten it up for him. But over a very short period of time, he's tying his shoes effectively, perfectly, and you're not doing it anymore. The 3D pattern will show you how to teach the skills that will get effective results for people and how to teach them how to teach the skills. Once they can teach the skills that get results and they're inside your team's system or your company's training system, then you have authentic duplication, just like the kid tying his shoes. So how do we get that done? Well, the 3D pattern is something that will make that happen for you. It's fun, it's fast, and it works every single time. The 3D pattern is a tremendous accelerator of duplication and the correct kind of duplication, but it requires that we understand what I like to call the circle. Top earners all know it as a circle. What do I mean by that? Well, if you look closely at your company's training or your team training that your leaders have put together, you'll find that it's really circular if you sort of step back and look at it as a whole rather than look at the pieces. How does that circle work? Well, you bring someone in the business, you bring them through their getting started portion of your training so that they can get a list together, get some contacts together. Then we contact people with them so we can do what? Sponsor them in the business. And when we sponsor them into the business, what happens? The cycle starts all over again. We bring the brand new people through the getting started training, recruiting, and sponsoring cycle. So what you want to do is make your team training or your company's training the authority. If you deviate from that, you're giving everybody in your group subconsciously permission to deviate from it. Now, big earners love leverage. They find it and they repeat it over and over and over again. The 3D pattern is a multiplier of leverage. So the main thing on this page here is to look at your business as a circle. That is, we're bringing people in, getting them trained, teaching them to sponsor and recruit so we can do what? Get more people in, get them trained so they'll sponsor and recruit. The 3D pattern will multiply that effect. Pattern. It's really simple. You sponsored Sandy in the business, and she's following the system that your team has. Sandy then sponsors, with your help, Peter, Paul, and Mary. Peter picks up the pattern, and he follows the system. He's loyal to the system. He's coachable. Paul and Mary, on the other hand, are really not following it. They're kind of doing their own thing. You want to treat Peter as if you personally sponsored him. This is really important. They're going to have Sandy touch Paul and Mary by email or a quick call once a week to let them know what's going on, but not really spend a lot of time with them. You and Sandy, on the other hand, double team Peter. You're doing the 3-step plan with him. That's what I call the recruiting cycle. Your team may call it something else, but you kind of get it. We contact people, make a presentation, and then collect decisions. You're going to do enrollments for Peter with Sandy. So you treat Peter as if you personally sponsored him, and you have Sandy with you every time you do something with Peter. Okay, let's look at this graphically. Let's say you sponsored Sandy into the business and you sent her your team or company getting started document or to a website where you have the team training up there or company training. Now she's going to work through the little checklist that most companies or teams provide. If there isn't one there, then just create a really short one if you need to. So here's what happens. Sandy's following the system. She's coachable. So you do the 3-step plan with her now. That's what I call the recruiting cycle. We contact new people. We get them to a presentation of sorts, and then we get back together and collect decisions 1, 2, 3. So you help her sponsor Peter, Paul, and Mary into the business. You then show Sandy how to get them started by doing it with her. Don't tell her to get the training over to her teammates. Do it with her. They get started right, which is critical, and Sandy learns how to get people started right. So you're teaching Sandy how to get people started right by doing it with her. And you're ensuring that Peter, Paul, and Mary got started right, not depending on Sandy. This, in essence, is the crucial part of the 3 deep pattern. You're going to do the work with them. Because Peter's following your team or company system, here's the key. You're going to treat Peter as if you personally sponsored him. Everybody says that seems like a lot of work. And then after they do it for 2 or 3 weeks and get this 3D pattern going, everybody says, I don't know why nobody showed this to me before, because it leads to explosive growth. See, here's the key. You're going to have Sandy with you while showing Peter how to use your system. Not only is Peter learning what to do, but Sandy is getting retrained and learning exactly how to teach other people to get started right. You and Sandy help Peter sponsor Mo, Larry, and Curly. Sandy is now getting people started right because she's seen you do it 3, 4, 5 times. You may have done it in 2 or 3 other lines in her organization. What's getting started right? Well, it's getting them to the top of that circle, sent them to the team or company getting started documents, and learned how to use checklists to keep the new folks on track. So Sandy's watching you monitor Mo, Larry, and Curly with Peter. This gives her insight into exactly what to do to get people on track and keep them on track. Of the 3 people that Peter sponsored, Mo, Larry, and Curly, let's say that Larry's the coachable one, and he goes through the company training or system. Mo and Curly aren't really that loyal to it. Now, here's what you do. You and Sandy are going to treat Larry, both of you, as if he were personally sponsored by you, as if he was your brother. Now, why do you do this? Well, this is going to ensure Larry becoming successful. You're going to retrain simultaneously both Sandy and Peter. These 3 words will make you a fortune. Train, retrain, and retain. What you're doing is you're retraining Peter on the getting started stuff. We can't hear it enough times. Sandy is getting retrained, and what's really happening is you're teaching Sandy the 3D pattern, teaching her to treat people downline as if she personally sponsored them. Now, this is key. By getting Larry successful, and he'll be successful faster, and keeping him inside that circle. Remember, the circle is we bring people in, we get them started, we get them recruiting, sponsoring, so that they can start that cycle all over again. It's going to end up duplicating the correct things, that is, the skills that get effective results. Now, all the time that you're doing this with Larry, Peter's hearing it again, Sandy's hearing it again, and it keeps your system pure. This gives Larry 3 powerful resources. Your system is really the DNA of duplication. See, Larry's growth is fed at this point by 3 people, all with the same DNA. What do I mean by the DNA? Well, you started as a single cell and duplicated. Sandy started as a single cell and duplicated. A frog started as a single cell. It went to 2 cells and 4 cells and so forth. And isn't that really what you want inside your organization? The system is the DNA to duplication. Now Larry is hearing the same thing from Peter. He's hearing it from Sandy, and he's hearing it from you. And you're making sure that the message is carried properly. This 3D pattern gets extremely effective at this point because you're going to continue to treat Larry as if you personally sponsored him, and so is Peter. Of course, Peter did personally sponsor him, and so is Sandy. How do you do this? Well, you're going to work the recruiting cycle, which I call the three-step plan, with Larry, yourself. Sandy's going to do it with him, and Peter's going to do it with him. And you're going to help him get his new people started right, the same way that you did with Sandy and Peter. What's important here is Sandy, Peter, and Larry become quote-unquote gatekeepers. People below Larry now use Larry, Peter, and Sandy. The 3D pattern kind of shifts down a little bit. Now, what do I mean specifically for gatekeepers? Well, they've all seen what needs to be done dozens and dozens of times. I have an absolute firm belief, and everybody that's been in this business says the same thing. The only thing that'll duplicate are systems based on skills vitalized by people who teach those skills hands-on. And that's what you've done. You've taught it to Sandy, you've taught it to Peter, and Sandy saw it a second time. You taught it to Larry, and Sandy saw it a third time, and Peter saw it a second time. Of course, that's going on in a couple of their organizations. This develops leadership by having people go through their now competent resources. Sandy's seen it a dozen times, Peter's seen it a dozen times. They know what to do. This avoids reverse duplication while forging leadership. What's reverse duplication? Well, that's where everybody in the organization is calling you about everything from how to log into their back office to how to order sales aids. You've been through this with these people, Sandy, Peter, and Larry, so many times that they know how to do those things. And leadership starts to develop because they've been well trained. You have taught them the system, but vitalized it by working it with them hands-on in the 3D pattern. Everybody knows that works the 3D pattern. There's a remarkable payoff. When you first hear about it, it can seem like a lot of work and you're going slower, but it's just like the example of teaching a kid how to tie his shoes. It takes a little time, but if you take that time, he's tying them, and that frees up your time. So let's talk about the payoff here. By working with 3 people, this helps them develop the skills. Remember, the only thing that's going to duplicate is a system based on skills vitalized by people who teach those skills hands-on. You're going to teach them the same 3D pattern. This ensures that your team or company system doesn't get diluted. If it gets diluted, then the DNA or the system is haphazard and you don't get the duplication that you want. You're going to explain the value of the 3D pattern while you're doing it with them. Now, Larry's going to grow faster. Why? Well, he's got 3 experts helping him. You guys are triple teaming him. This is important because it builds equity below Sandy and Peter. It locks Sandy and Peter in if you explode Larry. Now, as these people make money, you get a reputation which you can then leverage in a fabulous way. Now, the payoff in the 3D pattern gets even bigger as long as egos don't get involved. Make the system the star. Look, your reputation's going to grow as a money maker, and the people that work with you make money, and so is Peter's and Sandy's and so forth. If you make the system the star, it's much easier to put requirements on people who want to work with you. This is a key to leadership. And if you make the system the star rather than yourself, people will automatically follow the system because they'll think, oh, if I do what he does or if I do what she does, I'll get the results that I want. Now, as the system becomes the star, people become system dependent, not dependent on individuals. And this stops a lot of that reverse duplication that can really eat up your time. That's people calling you for everything that's already in your system, company site, or training. You want to develop little mastermind alliances. What does that mean? Well, maybe you have a 15 or 20-minute call once a week with Peter and Sandy and Larry, making sure that everybody's staying faithful inside the 3D pattern so the system doesn't get diluted. But you also want to identify a hot spot maybe underneath Larry and get out and start the pattern all over again. Just jump in there sort of as a guest for a week because they've been gatekeepers. You coming down to work with those people does a tremendous amount of lifting of spirits for them. This is something that's really special, but it does something even more powerful. It makes sure that the system that you guys are following and training and teaching on doesn't get diluted. And of course, since we're in the business of duplication, that's crucial. It happened really in a coffee shop years ago. Somebody actually drew this circle out to me, and there it was. I saw it, and I saw the value of the 3D pattern. When I mean I saw it, an internal mechanism clicked in me that, well, as they say, the rest is history. We went from making good money in network marketing, 6 figures, to multiple 6 figures virtually overnight with the 3D pattern, because the 3D pattern helps us stay inside the circle. Let me define a few things on here for you. T with the exponent of Q stands for time and quality, meaning the quality of your time is exponentially measured in this business. So if you can stay inside the circle, the quality of your time is high. The higher the quality of your time, the faster the growth, the better the duplication. And that's directly going to be proportional to the business volume or group volume that you create, which is directly proportional to your paycheck. So the higher the quality of your time, faster the growth, better the duplication, higher the volume, higher the check. The poorer the quality of your time, the slower the growth, the poorer the duplication, and of course, the less business volume you have, the lower the check. So the trick here is to stay inside the circle. Now, this is where things tend to break down for people. They get people in the business, and they stop piquing interest, sorting, presenting, following up, and closing to train people. And of course, they don't realize it, but they're setting in motion that type of duplication. So if Mo, Larry, and Curly got people in the business, they would then stop piquing interest, sorting, presenting, etc., to take time out to train. So now you have all your best people training people that haven't done anything, rather than having your best people continuing to pique interest, sort, present, follow up, and close. MT stands for main thing down here. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And we'll show you how to use the 3D pattern to stay inside the circle. If you really take a minute to look at the circle and your own appointment book for the previous week, how much time did you spend inside that circle? And individual training people is not inside the circle, and it's not teaching the things that you want to duplicate. So how do you do that? We'll show you on the next 2 overheads, and you'll understand the real value of the 3D pattern. You know, we've been really blessed in this industry and won some awards as trainers, and it's been humbling and it's been fabulous. But people are shocked to find out that I don't train individuals. And it's very, very rare when I have a little training session with somebody. By not training, I train. Let me explain. I don't take the time to tell somebody what to do. I show them. So Harry calls me up, and he wants to know why he's not getting a conversion rate, and he wants to have a conversation. I tell Harry, I'm busy. What are you doing tonight at 8 o'clock? Harry says nothing. I give him a conference call number and a passcode, and he can get in, and he listens to me contact people. I show them what to do. Remember, the second biggest lie in network marketing is people don't duplicate, systems do. That's an outright lie. What duplicates are systems based on skills vitalized by people who teach those skills hands-on. But there's something else important going on here. If I take time out to train Harry individually and spend an hour with him on the phone or 2 hours up in a coffee shop, I've now taken double time out of my business. I took myself out of the business, out of the circle for an hour, and I took Harry out of the business for an hour. So what we have to realize is the big money is at step 1. That's where we're striking interest with new prospects. And you can grow exponentially if we stay inside the circle. So fundamentally, what you want to do here is, rather than telling Harry what to do, I'm going to show him by letting him listen to me recruit. Okay, it's a big temptation to talk to Harry about an hour and a half about little nuances about recruiting that are never going to come up. It's really just a way for you and Harry to avoid making calls. Now, by doing it the other way, by saying, hey, Harry, what are you doing tonight at 8 o'clock? I can have 5, 6, 8, 10, 30 distributors listening to me do step one calls. I'm really teaching more than 3 things. I'm working the 3D pattern by showing them what to do, but I'm showing them how to do it. I'm showing them how to show other people how to do it, and I'm showing them how to train and duplicate without getting outside the circle, meaning by keeping the main thing the main thing. Always let people listen to you when you're doing those initial calls. It pays huge dividends on a lot of levels. First of all, they think that leaders don't get any answering machines, bad numbers, or people that aren't interested. Boy, does it relax them when they see that you get lots of busy signals or backup voicemails or people that aren't interested. They see there's no magic. They see the work ethic. But most of all, you're training them for down the road because they'll duplicate that process. Instead of taking time out of their business to teach people what to do, they let people listen to them build the business. Same thing gets accomplished both ways. One of them is effective and inside that circle of high quality time. The other one is ineffective and outside the circle. There's only 2 types of distributors in the world. Those that stay inside the circle by constantly demonstrating what to do by letting people listen to them, and people that get outside the circle, let their egos get away, and are constantly telling people what to do. You just have to decide which group you want to see yourself in. So let's review combining the 3 deep and the circle. If you train by showing, you not only teach them how to do it, you are planting the correct seeds for how they can train others without ever stopping step 1, which drives our business. Now you can click there and get a free conference call line if you don't have one already. Schedule those step 1 calls or initial calls or whatever your team is calling them for yourself and with people in the 3 deep pattern that you're working. Then what you want to do is let everybody in your organization know what the schedule is so that they can listen in. So maybe you're working with Larry one day, you're working with Sandy one day, and you're working with Peter 2 nights in a row. What a benefit to have everybody on your team being able to plug in. They're getting trained, but you're keeping the main thing the main thing. And if you're simultaneously keeping the main thing while training, you'll get the kind of duplication that'll explode your business. Remember, the point of doing this, just like teaching a kid to tie his shoes, is so that they can do it without you. And when they're doing this same thing that you see right here, they're letting people listen to them and letting the team know what their schedule is so that they can listen in and learn how to do it the right way. Boy, does your explosion of duplication blow your mind. So pass this skill on, and thanks for stopping by.